Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're doing the next part in our little mini series that has to do with DEI and ADA. Before we get into it, I want to correct myself on some of the things that I said in my previous video. In my defense, I've been a little bit rusty in this area, as in the main advocacy activities I've been involved in as late has to do with places like the JRC, Agape Boarding School, Kennecook Camp, and things of that nature. So it's been a long moment since I last updated my certificates in regards to ADA and DEI. Before I get into where I would like to correct myself, we're going to go ahead and go through the trigger warnings real quick. This channel is marked not for kids for multiple reasons. One of those, for those of you who are new to the channel, we go through some extremely dark topics, such like the atrocities that are being visited upon disabled folk and people with mental health issues at the JRC that are deeply disturbing. The other reason is I'm an Army brat that was raised by a truck driver. So every so often, every word that comes out of my mouth is probably going to be littered with profanity. So if you are a parent, please be advised of that. Regardless, I do recommend parental supervision. And if this is not something you want your kid to see due to the profanity, you're not going to hurt my feelings. That's what the description box is always for. I'm going to link to the information in regards to DEI in the description box, as well as what we're going over here. You're more than welcome to do so. All right? Parental supervision is advised. Okay, where we're going to be correcting myself here. It has to do with specifically employment. See, as far as I knew, the ADA did not protect us in regards to when we were getting hired. The ADA couldn't force someone to hire me, a disabled person, over someone else who is more qualified for said position, simply because I am disabled. Where it is true that if I don't have the credentials, they're going to laugh me out the door. Rightly so, I might add. It also means the ADA does provide some legal protection against discrimination in regards to the hiring and recruiting process. So I wanted to be upfront with you all and not let that slide. Just like I like to hold other people accountable, I also hold myself accountable as well. I was incorrect in regards to that, okay? Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to go back here to the introduction, get into the employment area, and then we're going to go into where DEI and ADA intersect. And that will close out our very small 2-video little mini-series here, okay? Alright, let me go back up here. Alright. I'm pretty sure you probably don't necessarily need to have a definition of what a disability is, in particular with the workspace. If you do, you can always send me a message in the comments. I'll happily go over that with you. But just In regards to time, we're not going to go over that part. We are going to go over major life activities because in regards to the ADA and who it protects, this is actually pretty vital here. This is not protection that can be easily just gotten by anyone. Okay? And there are many people like me because of the front that we put on that would say, well, no, obviously you're not protected. You're together. Spend a week alone in my company, then tell me what you think after that. But anyways, what they're talking about in particular here is eating, sleeping, speaking, and breathing, movements like walking, standing, lifting, and bending, cognitive functions like thinking and concentrating, sensory functions like seeing and hearing. This is pertinent in particular for people like myself with sensory issues, where we can have weird physical sensations associated with such things like color. I can taste and smell color. I know it's weird. I certainly never asked for it, and it's probably part of the many reasons I was bullied throughout the entirety of grade school, but it is a thing, and it is something I go over with every potential boss. So if that happens and I get overwhelmed, they're not befuddled trying to figure out what's going on. It also adds, as I do full disclosure up front and immediately, to get the kind of protection I need, that I cannot be discriminated against and fired because of said sensory issues. So this is tasks like working, reading, learning, and communicating. In particular, say you're in a call center environment, most of the call center trainings usually involve you with taking a test for certification in order for you to go through and become a regular worker out on the floor. Usually this takes place after something called nesting. Because I do full disclosure up front, and due to sensory issues, depending on where the office is, what the sensory issues are, the ADA means that they have to provide for me a quiet room, nobody else in there, for me to be able to go ahead and complete that testing. That sort of thing. Also includes operation of major bodily functions like circulation, reproduction, individual organs. It also applies to folks like Roomy Paul back there, who has adrenal disease. His version is where his adrenal glands almost never turn off. Okay? Which affects a lot of bodily functions. To put it bluntly, I know it's gross, but he has to go number one in the bathroom far more frequently than maybe you and I have to. He gives full disclosure. That means the ADA protects him, and they can't fire him for taking extra breaks due to his medical condition. Okay? It's that sort of thing. All right, we're going to go into employment, and then we're going to tie it all up, folks. It was reading this here that made me realize I really needed to correct myself. Sometimes I need to reevaluate what I do on my end. Because, yeah, I have foibles. Sometimes when I'm doing that, I do it with my full chest. Yeah. Egg in face is not fun, but at least it keeps me humble, right? Okay. So the part in regards to employment, in regards to the ADA, is Title I. We're going to be going through this very briefly here. And then we're going to go through the last part of this, okay? So Title I applies to employers that have 15 or more employees, including state, local governments, employment agencies, and labor unions. General requirement: employers must provide people with disabilities an equal opportunity to benefit from employment-related opportunities available to others. This includes things like recruitment, hiring, training, pay, and social activities. Where I want to make a comment here, and I think this is what tripped me up yesterday when I was doing this here. The ADA does not require an employer to go out of their way to recruit someone who has a disability for one of their open job positions. Okay? What the ADA does is it gives the protection that we cannot be disqualified for consideration in regards to a job position that we are interviewing for solely based on our disability. What that doesn't mean, and neither does the DEI, by the way, we'll get into that here in a moment, is that the recruiter has to go out and actively and specifically seek to target disability job seekers to interview. See the difference? ADA, you're going in of your own volition. It protects you from getting discriminated against in regards to if you have the proper credentials and education from the job position. They can't simply dismiss you. It does not mean that they have to go out of their way to recruit you. I wanted to make clear that difference. I think that's where a lot of my confusion came in from yesterday. It sets legal protection. All right? That being said, I can tell you, none of those folks usually have stands up at places like ARC, Nova, DCL, or Burl job fairs for people who are transitioning age going to straight to the workforce or into secondary education. Okay? They don't. It is what it is. Don't know what to tell you. It provides you protection if you put your paper in and you send them your resume, that they have to consider you with the same weight that they consider another abled person with the same credentials as you. Okay? It's not to go out and actively recruit you. Nor does it address work culture issues, which I can tell you as an autistic, there's work culture issues. I have been fired literally from a previous position because I refused to socialize in any way, shape, or form during my working hours. There's some unspoken rules when dealing with a heavily littered neurotypical job environment that most of us disabled people do not know a single thing about. Okay? It gets even worse when they look at you like, well, you should know. Why aren't you engaging? Like, that may need to be in its own series one day, but let's keep me from going into left field again. You get my point, right? It provides legal protection. It does not address issues in regards to work culture or inclusion. Okay? All right. Now, the ADA includes specific requirements for employers to ensure people with disabilities have equal access to employment. That, at its heart, is what it is, legally as well as otherwise. They cannot discriminate against us if we have the proper credentials and we're going up for the same job as an able person who also has the requirements. Okay? The ADA does not provide any form of legal basis in regards to a welcoming atmosphere. Okay? There's nothing in here that's going to keep me from being isolated at work. Whether I want to be or not depends on the job and the people. So we've gone over that here. We've gone a little bit over Title 1. There's more stuff to go over, true, and at some point I probably will do a series that does deal exclusively with ADA because obviously I need to brush up on some of those skills. Now we're going to go over here. Just to show you what my little question was, I asked, what is the difference between ADA and DEI when it comes to hiring and recruiting people for work? We're going with the AI overview, but because I really do think it covers it quite well. So, let's get to it, all right? The key difference between the ADA and DEI when hiring people with disabilities is that the ADA is a legal mandate prohibiting discrimination against individuals with disabilities, requiring employers to provide reasonable accommodations, while DEI is a broader concept that aims to create an inclusive workplace culture where people with disabilities feel welcomed and valued, going beyond legal requirements to actively recruit and support them. So, just like I said before, remember I said ADA, I give full disclosure. If I meet all the credential requirements, I cannot be discriminated against in favor of one of my able peers when the credentials are the same. That's that legal protection. So, someone says on the radio, we're having a job fair at T-Tech, we're having a job fair at CSLLC. It's not someone who's going out to actively recruit folks like myself, or even bring knowledge about for people like me that something like that is going on. It means I go in there of my own volition. Okay? That's what that means. What DEI encourages is to actively go a little bit beyond the ADA. It means fostering an environment where people with disabilities and other minority groups would not only know about the job positions available, but feel welcomed and encouraged to apply for said jobs. To give you an example, I mentioned the ARC job fair, right? I presented at one of those, I believe, I'm not sure, I think it was about around 2012, from what I remember. It was in the main ARC building of the Southwest Mo region. They've got a big kind of basketball court slash indoor gym that we held the job fair at. And we had different employers coming in, some from local family restaurants who were just needing a little bit of additional help. We had a few colleges, I believe MSU and Mizzou, Columbia University were there. Active recruiters who are looking to welcome and pique interest among people with disabilities to apply for those job positions. What it also includes is job culture. So what does that mean? That means the overall work environment makes me feel as though I am included and a part of the team. You cannot legislate or create a law that versus a work environment that, you know, God, I'm having a hard time saying it, for social stuff. We'll just call it social stuff. I'm sure about 5 hours from now, I will, I don't know, pinch myself when I figure out what I was trying to say here. So it means I get the job. I'm legally protected by the ADA, reasonable accommodations, and all of that. The ADA can't force the job environment to include me with the overall work culture. So we're talking lunch periods and breaks where people gather together and chat. We're talking about competitions, which is extremely prevalent, in particular, by the way, when you're in a call center sales environment. It means it's encouraging everyone, regardless of what minority you are, to work together as a team, as friends, instead of living a very isolated situation like what happened with me at FedEx, where I essentially talked to no one, did my 8 hours of solid coding for customs on one of the most antiquated, horrible coding systems known to man. I don't miss it. I don't miss it. That was horrible. But anyways. But I didn't fraternize with anybody. I didn't have a friend group. I didn't even have a work friend group. Okay? And nobody ever reached out to try and include me with the rest of the workers within the company. Whereas opposed to places like Wayfair, CSLLC, fostered an environment to kind of really encourage fraternization over isolation. Wayfair was good at that, considering it was a work from home position, which can be quite isolating when you think about it. I was actually rather impressed with how they did that. I just hate sales with the entirety of my soul. But you get what we're saying here, right? DEI acts as a way to help people reach out to folks who wouldn't necessarily think to go to places that might have job opportunities for us that we wouldn't even think of. So they go out and beyond what the ADA requires. They look for us at job fairs, things of that nature, all right? They also try to prevent any form of isolation. I've had it explained to me once, they felt like isolation goes to burnout. I did make a joke, a very horrible joke, that I was autistic, and that is entirely cool. And I got the annoyed stare down. You get what I'm saying, right? It's an overall culture. We want you involved. We want you participating with the rest of the employees when we've got games and contests. We don't want anybody feeling left alone or cast aside. We want to encourage you, if you're part of one of these groups that the DEI covers, to feel like you are welcomed to participate, welcome to give out opinions or ideas, help your coworkers, things of that nature is pretty much part of DEI. We're going to read this here, and this is going to kind of conclude after this little mini series here. Okay. So practices may include targeted outreach, what I just say, to recruit candidates with disabilities. ADA as a legal protection cannot necessarily say, hey, you gotta go recruit some disabled folk. Okay? This is an encouragement to seek us out. And if we have the qualifications, Republicans, especially you MAGA bastards, please pay attention to the words that are coming out of my mouth. What that means when they go out recruiting is that they are looking for people like myself that meet the job qualifications required. Okay? No one from TSA is going to recruit my autistic ass who has never in the entirety of her life had any education whatsoever in regards to directing plane traffic and automatically put me in that position solely because I'm autistic and they're trying to fill a quota. They cannot do that. Okay? You want to talk about lawsuits. That is the sort of thing that consumers, if that were actually allowed to happen, and it could be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, the CEO's great grandchildren would owe those customers money. Okay? DEI does not mean less qualified. Let me say that again for the ableist shitbags, racist assholes, bigots in the back. Okay? DEI does not mean unqualified. It means the employer is making a concerted effort to recruit for a particular job position folks that would not ordinarily think to apply for those types of jobs. Let me explain to you why. But you just said that they wouldn't take you if you're not qualified. No, they won't. One of the main areas where that comes from is we got multiple people with developmental disabilities with insane types of degrees. We are talking doctorates, MBAs, master's degrees, bachelor degrees. You see where I'm going, right? And in spite of having all those qualifications, have never set a single foot inside that field for a job position. In particular for us, who don't have an inherent idea in regards to how recruiting works, we don't even know where to begin to look. And although some places will tell you after college we have job placement programs, what that generally means is job coaching, teaching you interview skills, things of that nature. It doesn't always necessarily mean that they are going to put you in contact with a potential employer. Okay? So DEI, a part of it is to kind of remedy that so that we can be aware out there that the qualifications that we have, there is a company out there that would like to hire me for that position that I qualify for, that I wouldn't think of to go look for on my own or even know how to look for on my own otherwise. Now, granted, what I got my degree in was done intentionally because I knew exactly how to apply for said jobs. They still found their loopholes to not get me in there. That's neither here nor there. That is Missouri under GOP hell. Okay? But do you see what I mean? ADA is legal protection. DEI has to do with encouraging employers to recruit individuals with proper credentials that wouldn't even necessarily think to go that route in order to get the job that they went to school for. I'm having trouble trying to explain it. I am hoping that makes pretty good sense. We're going to do one more detail here. And again, all these links are going to be included in the description box for when we get finished. I just don't want to lose my place because I'm going to want to save that link too. Alright, this is called Handshake. How to inclusively recruit candidates with disabilities. Alright, actively recruiting candidates with disabilities will help you attract a broader talent pool and build a more diverse team. So your goal is to add top early talent to your team. It's a tall order amidst the ongoing labor shortages in a competitive hiring landscape. At least it used to be. God help us all. Here's the thing. If you don't recruit candidates with disabilities, you might be excluding highly qualified candidates. That is it in a nutshell, folks. What the DEI is for people like me is it means that people who may have been excluding us without even realizing that they were doing so are made aware of it, and blogs like this provides ways to help them to recruit amongst us disabled folk. to bring them a part of the work environment. You still have to meet the job qualifications before you are considered for those jobs. Okay? Again, I cannot march my ass to Washington, D.C. right now, apply for a TSA job where I'm directing plane traffic when I have no education, no experience, no degrees, no certifications to direct plane traffic, and that they have to hire me in spite of the fact that I have none of the qualifications whatsoever because they got to match a quota. That's what Republicans are trying to sell you. And I can't just say Republicans are full of shit. Because let's be honest here. Politicians, left, right, center, are all full of shit. Okay? They use things like DEI and turn it into a slur and infer meaning on it that has nothing to do with what it actually is to get you to knee-jerk react in one way or the other. It's a manipulation tactic. And unfortunately, I hate to pick on you neurotypicals, but I'm going to have to a little bit. You all are a little bit more subject to manipulation when people are manipulating your emotions as opposed to someone like myself. That's not saying I can't be manipulated. I very much can. But it is an extremely difficult feat. And only a very small few that I can count on one hand have actually managed to do so. Okay? So they use things like DEI and words like unqualified because they want you angry. They want you at each other's throats. Why? Because it brings votes. It brings money. And even better, it's a massive distraction that keeps you looking for the man behind the curtain. All right? So, in closing, the conclusion here is ADA provides legal protection that keeps any potential employer from discriminating against me due to my disability, even if I have all the qualifications that are being asked for, in favor with an abled person with all the same qualifications to be hired instead. Okay? In a nutshell. Also provides reasonable accommodations in regards to the difficulties that come with being me. Or you get where I'm going here. DEI is more of creating an inclusive environment by drawing more people in that otherwise people wouldn't even think to go out and recruit people with developmental disabilities. And we all know why. Because there is a preconceived idea in our society in regards to what people like me are actually capable of in the workplace and otherwise. reason why we need things like DEI is specifically for that reason. Okay? It's to open the eyes up to recruiters to a job pool they didn't even know existed. People who are extremely qualified, who didn't even necessarily know where to go to apply for their own field. Okay? You have no DEI. You have no one actively recruiting any minority. So you have employers who will deliberately pursue their ideal candidates in a way that nobody can call them out on it. You already have people that manipulate and play the DEI system and ADA law. It happens every day. There's a reason why I've been pigeonholed into call centers until I finally had enough. And I'm going for a medical transcription and editing. Okay? Alright, we're going to close out this little mini series. I hope you all do forgive me for my own misunderstanding and speaking incorrectly. I wanted to make sure that I corrected myself as soon as I saw that mistake. In fact, I started a previous video. Once I read that, trashed it, we started over. Alright folks, we don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do tend to get removed from time to time, so please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, please don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. As always folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I've got a few more videos coming out in regards to the JRC, and also, because unfortunately this world just really hates us all right now, I have to travel back down the insane rabbit hole that is RFK Jr. because our country's current politicians and powers are absolutely insistent to destroying everything we stand for in alphabetical order. All right, everyone. Bye bye. I'll see you all later.